Good morning, children. Today in Social Science in History in class 9, we continue the lesson Nazism and the Rise of Hitler. Now we'll talk about the youth organizations. Why and how Hitler laid so much stress on the youth of the country. Now we see that Hitler was deeply interested in the youth of the country. He was fanatic about the children, about the youth of the country. He was very enthusiastic because children would be the future of the country. And he believed that a strong nation could be established by teaching children Nazi ideology. That is, by teaching them at a very young age while they were at school to teach them about the Nazi principles. So that's what he believed in. And various steps and measures were adopted to modify, to reform the education system in order to accomplish what he had resolved. Now, for this reason, all schools were purified and cleansed. And the Jews, who were the undesirable children, initially they were allowed to sit separately from the Germans, but later on they were turned out of the schools. And the same happened with the teachers as well. So all these Jewish children were turned out because they were considered and termed as undesirables. So that happened with the Jews, with also the Germans who were physically handicapped, and the gypsies. So this is one thing that they adopted. Then the good German children were trained with Nazi ideas, and they were taught to be loyal, submissive, to hate Jews. At such a young age they were taught that they have to simply and only hate the Jews and worship Hitler, and they should be violent and aggressive. So this kind of training, this kind of education that the children received obviously influenced their mind greatly. So there were youth organizations that were formed, and these organizations were responsible for educating the German youth in the spirit of National Socialism. That meant that how gradually as they grew older, things were taught and they were trained. When they were 10-year-olds, so all the 10-year-olds had to join the group that was called as Jungvolk. This was a Nazi group for children and meant for children below 14 years. Then when they grew a little older, at 14 years of age, all the boys had to join the group that was called as Hitler Youth. And at this age, they learned to worship war, to glorify war, aggression and violence. That is, that they should be aggressive, they have to be strong, and they have to be violent. They also were taught to condemn democracy. Democracy had no place in Germany at that time, and right from the time when they were young, when they were at school and when they were part of these groups, they were taught all that. And the most important thing also was that they were taught to hate the Jews, communists, gypsies and undesirables, because all of them were termed as undesirables. So this is how they were trained. Then after a rigorous training, ideologically, that means that by now they had been taught the Nazi ideas and principles. Physically, they were made strong. They joined the group that was now known as a labor service. So this was at the age of 18. So at 10 years they formed this group of Jungvolk. At 14 they were part of the Hitler Youth, and at 18 they were a part of this labor service. Then they had to serve in the army. They had to serve in the armed forces and then enter one of the Nazi organizations that had been already formed. So we see that the Youth League of Nazis was founded in 1922. But after 4 years, it was renamed as Hitler Youth. And all other youth organizations were banned. This was done so that all the youth could be united in one group only, and that which was now known as Hitler Youth. So we see that how Hitler targeted the children, and their education system was made such so that they would be able to have those ideas from a very young age and would not be able to think along any other lines. So this is what he was able to achieve also. Now, if we see the role of women in Nazi Germany, that women played an important role. Although there was no equality, they did not believe in the principle or idea of equality at all. So the children in Nazi Germany were told again and again, repeatedly, that women were radically different from men. And what is this? That according to the Nazi ideology, fight for equal rights, which was going on in other countries, would destroy their society. So he did not encourage that at all. That is, that there was no a place for equality or equal rights in their country, because he felt that in the other countries, wherever fights were going on, wherever there was so much commotion about it, that was not possible in Germany, because that would only destroy their society and their country. So from the beginning only, boys were taught to be aggressive and masculine and steel-hearted, to be strong, so because they had to fight wars. So this was taught to all the boys, while the girls had to become in the future become good mothers and rear pure-blooded Aryan children, so that they could maintain the purity of race, look after their home, teach the children Nazi values. So the women had an important role to play in the sense that they had to rear children with the Nazi values and serve the country. In fact, women were honored for large families when they had more children, and those women who maintained contact with Jews, Poles, or the Russians, they were told to stay away from them, to have a distance from them. But if they did that, then they were punished severely, or they were imprisoned and they were condemned for life. So this kind of thinking, what they had about the women in the country. Now, to popularize Nazi ideas, the art of propaganda, that is, propaganda is actually information that is often biased and used to promote a political cause. Here, of course, we know that it was only the principles of Nazism that they wanted to continue, that they wanted to make it more and more popular and the only thing in their country. So we see that the Nazi regime, that is the rule, used two ways, that is language and media, effectively to describe their practices. So the two practices that they followed in order to popularize the principles and ideas of Nazism one was language and the other was media. Now, how did they use language? They used euphemism. That is, they never used words like kill or murder in their official communication. Instead, mass killings were termed as special treatment or final solution for the Jews. So they did not ever use the word kill or murder. That is exactly what they were doing. But in its place, they used terms like special treatment and final solution for the Jews. Then for the disabled also, they used euthanasia, selection and disinfections. Evacuation meant deporting people to gas chambers called disinfection areas. So they used alternative words, alternative terms when they had to kill or murder these people. So they sent the people to the gas chambers and they called these in disinfection areas. So this is the way they used language to make the Nazi principles and ideas popular. And the second method that they used was media. Media also played an important role, and it was very carefully and effectively used to win the support for the Nazis and make it more and more popular. That is what their effort was. Their ideas were spread. That is, the Nazi ideas, the Nazi principles, the Nazi ideology was spread through visual images, films, radio, posters, catchy and appealing slogans and leaflets. So this is how media was used. Then socialists and liberals were considered weak and malicious foreign agents. That is, that they were not right, that they would harm the country. So they had no place for such people who were the socialists or who were liberals or who had such kind of ideas. And films also were made to create hatred against the Jews. So all this was done. So propaganda played a very important role in making Nazism more and more popular, and this they used language and media to make it extremely effective.